and things of that nature. All right, so welcome. This is week 1 of COMP123, and this is programming 2, and we're going to do an overview of what you guys did, let's say, last semester when you guys did programming 1. I'm going to be talking about the interface a little bit more, the IDE, with Visual Studio 2013. I use 2013. You can use 2012 in front of you if you want to. The machines in front of you are perfectly fine with 2012. I recommend, however, that if you have a laptop, right, and you can load 2013 on, you guys should all have access to Microsoft Visual Studio 2013 through MSD NNA DreamSpark for students, right? So if you don't know what that is, see me during the break. We'll have probably a break in about another hour or so, and we'll talk about it just for 5 minutes or so, just give you guys a bio break on the coldest day of the year. Minus 17, minus 30 with wind chill. I'll wait till everyone else rolls in while I continue. So I pretty much start sharp on the hour. So if your class is 8:30, 8:30 is when I start, right? So that's why I record everything, so that way when if you miss something, it's up on YouTube, and you could fast forward and go through my jibber jabber, right? Because I'll be talking a lot. And then you can just fast forward that stuff and go through to the actual lesson. So today, kind of an overview of what we're doing. So let's look at our battle plan for the semester, right? And this is right from our course outline syllabus. So again, we're using the same book for this piece of the course, right? So we're going to start next week with chapter 8. Which is going to be method concepts, although I am going to test you a little bit on that today. So if you're unprepared to be tested today, get ready to be disappointed, because we're going to be doing some testing. But my kind of testing is a little different than other people's, so you'll see what's going to happen. Now, I'm a gamer, right? I got to warn you in advance, which means I play a lot of games. A lot of my stuff is going to be game-based. So when we get together and I do some assignments and tests and all that kind of stuff, be prepared to do something game related, right? I'm not going to give you things like, I'm in an automobile shop and, you have to calculate the value of, please don't bore me, all right? That is like totally boring. I'm on the gamer side anyway. I also teach web game development or web game programming, which is another course that we do here. I think it's COMP123, which is going to be hosted on Mondays. Right? And when we do things there, it's more of an advanced course that we've been doing there, but it's something that I do. I kind of implement game stuff into all of my courses, whether it's game related or not. Why? Because if you can do game programming, if you can think like a gamer, you can program anything. Truthfully, any kind of interface, simple interface, if you can do game interfaces, then a simple interface that you can kind of have inputs and outputs is pretty simple. Unfortunately, this course is kind of developed from at least in the first part, purely on a command line perspective, which is cool from an input and output and logic and all that kind of stuff. On the downside, you don't get to see any kind of GUI or UI programming until I think probably part 3 of this series, right? So you get a little bit at the end of this course, you get a little bit of database and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, programming 3 is where we really start getting crazy interesting. I'll tell you that when I look at the outline myself, and again, we're just going to kind of review the first pieces of chapters 1, 2, 3, 4 today, and I'll kind of bring up those PowerPoints really quickly. I flashed through them like mad, right? But chapter 8 next week, again, we by last semester, by programming 1, you should have had some kind of idea of understanding methods very, very well, right? So you should know methods, how to pass parameters to methods and so on, and how to call methods. The whole idea about namespaces and that kind of thing you should be very well aware of. The IDE is something that you should be very comfortable with by now, Visual Studio 2012 at least. 2013, bringing your laptops, like I said earlier. 2012 kind of sucks. But anyways, that's just me. And we're going to be doing things online, like for those of you who didn't hear that earlier when I started off, kind of speaking. So this week, kind of an overview. Next week, we're going to be doing Chapter 8, which is Advanced Method Concepts, right? And the advanced method concepts that we're going to be using, right, is it's all about things like passing parameters into a method. And I see that I'm cut off. So now you're only seeing part of my screen, but not the whole thing. This is fantastic. I love when this kind of stuff happens. It's amazing. Well, we'll have to fix that in a bit. I'll stop recording and I'll restart it with the proper screen size, because you guys are getting cut off a little bit. But this is, at least you can see most of it. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing next week. The week after, we're going to start object-oriented programming using classes and objects. It's going to be more than what you would have had in, let's say, the first piece of, I think you got it in chapter 1 of the last series, Programming 1. We should have had a little bit of just kind of an introduction to object-oriented programming. Truthfully, if we're learning programming procedurally like you guys are at this point, this kind of is truly, like up until now, it's really just an introduction into programming. We start getting into it in this course, and then much more and courses to come. If you don't know how to do things with object-oriented programming, you're going to be hamstrung, in effect, in terms of scripting, especially when you do stuff with Unity. You need to understand object orientation, because you can skip around things like kind of rewriting code. We're going to talk about a little bit of what refactoring is with this particular course. But really, without object orientation, you're really not considered a true programmer these days, right? So again, bear with me. We're going to go through it all step by step. So this is kind of for the first 3 classes anyway, or after today, Chapter 8, Chapter 9, Chapter 10. We're going to get right into programming or object-oriented programming for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And if you notice, we're still lingering on Chapter 12, even on what looks like to me week 6. You guys can't see it because it's cut off, but it's week 6 on my side here. Right? So this is week 6, object-oriented programming. And then we have our midterm test, week 7. And unfortunately, the way this works is because week 7, officially, the actual week 7 is actually our break, right? Because our midterm break this semester is on Family Day, the week of Family Day. So that will be week 7. And that's the same time that we have our midterm test. So we may make a change in terms of when we do this. It might be the week before. I'm not sure if I'll do it the week before or the week after you get back, right? Because you guys are going to be gone. And it's kind of unfair for me to test you. You know, you're going to off for a week. Your brains are going to be somewhere else, and then you're going to come back, and I'm going to have an exam the first day back. I'm not sure if I want to do that. So there might be a change in terms of just the order of when we do stuff. So bear with it. So right after we get our midterm test, we're going to get right into, if you notice, we're going to go from Chapter 10 to Chapter 11 and 14. We do a little bit of exception handling and file I/O. And the reason why we skipped to Chapter 14 is because in order for us to test some file input and output or any kind of data, we need to be able to understand some kind of I/O. So that's why it's kind of mixed with 11 and 14. Same thing goes with using controls and event handling. And if you notice, there's a couple of chapters that we're going to cover here, 12 and 13. And then finally, we're going to go back into Chapter 14 in the following weeks. We might be able to hit Chapter 15 with link and accessing databases and so on. Now, if you notice some of the words in this outline, they mention things like SQL Access, Server 2008 databases, and MS Access files, and so on. That may not be the case, right, in terms of the versions. Obviously, we're not using Visual Studio 2010 like it says up here. I'm just going to scroll up here, so bear with me. Yeah, 2010, we're not using that one, right? We're using 2012 at the minimum. 2013 is what I'm going to be using, and so on. Next week, you're going to get your first assignment. As an example, we're going to do a bunch of assignments for this course. Again, from an assignment breakdown perspective, they're not going to be hard, right? I'm not going to plan my assignments to be killer, right? Although you will have lots of little instructions on how to get things done. There may be pieces of your assignment when you do your assignments that are going to be easy to get, like almost like do this, this is what's got to be included in your work. And there might be another piece of your assignment that says, show me this, make sure that you develop whatever the application is going to be that I'm going to ask you to build, right? And I'm talking about really simple stuff now, because again, we're looking at stuff that's non-UI based, so it's all going to be command line, right? It's going to output this, right? And this is what I'm looking for, right? So it's really, really simple. The assignments are going to be, should be very short and easy for you to handle and kind of hand in. The idea here is that I want all of you to get A pluses, right? Because it's around understanding. These two courses, COMP100 and COMP123, truly are the foundation for what you're going to be doing here, right? When it comes to whether you're on the software side or whether you're going to be on the gamer side, you need this stuff. So if you don't pass these courses, you're in trouble, right? I have to talk about this stuff, and I hate talking about it, but I got to say it. If I catch you cheating on any one of your assignments, you're going to get 0, right? I hate saying that but every semester I get somebody who thinks they're really, really smart. They're going to outsmart me, and they're going to hand in an assignment that's exactly like somebody else's. Or they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for someone else to write it for them. This is a bad thing. Please don't do this. I will catch you. I'm pretty good at this kind of stuff. That's what I do, right? So if you need to use external code for whatever reason, from now until the end of your career with Centennial or anywhere else you go, please talk to the professor that you're working with and say, hey, professor, do you mind if I use this piece of external code? It's not mine, but it's going to add functionality, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? Sometimes it makes sense. In this course, however, it makes no sense. This is all you. This is all about you learning C#, object-oriented programming, and stuff like that. So if you hand in stuff that's not your own, really it's a bad thing for you. You need to understand this stuff, or else you're going to be in trouble as we go forward, right? So please, this is super important. I know this is kind of a negative note. I don't want to start with that, but I need to mention it because every semester I have stuff like that happening. Okay? Okay, that's done. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Any questions around this, the order kind of what we're doing? So again, review today. Next week we're doing a little bit more advanced methods. We're following the book. So if you buy the Pharaoh book, I don't know if you can download it. I know some people like doing the PDF stuff. I don't know if you can get it so easily. But if you get the book, if I follow the book exactly, chapter 8 and so on. But I also do a couple things that will stop you from being bored. I'm going to swap in and out of using Visual Studio. I'm going to say, hey, join me on Visual Studio. We're going to do this kind of stuff. So when I say that, my expectation is you're going to be on Visual Studio, right? So this would be officially, let's say, a mix of lab and lecture. I'm not going to do like pure lab or a pure lecture, one or the other. Again, today we're kind of missing a class because we should have had one on Tuesday on on a regular week, right? This would be the second class, so you would have had more time for us to kind of go through everything. So this is a good chance for us to do an overview. Otherwise, if we were doing this on a regular basis, you would kind of lose a week, which is bad, right? So any questions around the syllabus? Pretty straightforward. Again, you can download this. It's online. If you look at where to get it, I'm going to post it as well up on my Centennial, just so that way you can, if you need to access the digital copy, and if it's not easy for you to get, it'll be up there. As well as I'll post my PowerPoint presentations and the link eventually to the YouTube recording of this stuff. Speaking of that, I'm just going to go over, and I'm going to stop recording right now.